The Champions League's back with a bang. Now let's analyse all the key matches and moments across this week.
And the first game we'll be delving into is AC Milan taking on Liverpool, where they lost 3-1 and Van Dijk scored on his 50th Champions League appearance. And I thought set pieces were a huge issue for AC Milan. But Zach, you're a Liverpool fan, so take this away, mate. What were your thoughts on this result for Liverpool?
Well, I thought it was a brilliant result, a brilliant match for Liverpool, a much needed win after the defeat to Forest at home, which was very poor all round. No one played well. And on Tuesday night, it just showed that Arne Slot's Liverpool are a class outfit. Yes, maybe not as entertaining as Klopp's, maybe not as sort of potent as Klopp's in the final third or as intense. But in terms of getting the job done, they're brilliant at it. They control games a lot better. Yes, we went down early doors, which was because of Van Dijk really pushing up when he shouldn't have had to, which led to space in behind. But we bounced back quickly. Konate scoring from the corner, Van Dijk, and like you said, set pieces were very important. And Tsimikas and Trent, two of the best set piece takers in world football, I think. They are brilliant from corners. Tsimikas set Van Dijk up in the Carabao Cup final last season. He is brilliant from set pieces. That was a key factor.
Do you think that was the main reason, like, as in set pieces, do you think that was Liverpool being good or AC Milan being poor?
I think it's a bit of both, because Konate and Van Dijk, they're almost 2 metres in height.
Yeah,
they're going to bully most defenders and most people in the box from corners, from set pieces. But at the same time, AC Milan, they didn't mark too well. You saw Van Dijk and Konate. They didn't really have to bully their way through. They were just sort of there, headed at home. Yes, they had to jump, but it was relatively easy. But I was still impressed from the performance as a whole, not just the set piece thing, because Szoboszlai, for example, who is generally very inconsistent for Liverpool, he will produce a 9 out of 10 one week and a 4 out of 10 the next. And although it was poor against Forest and good tonight, which is sort of relaying what I've said, he did prove his class tonight, and we just need to see more of that Szoboszlai moving forward, scoring the goal, running the show from the midfield, pressing, being energetic, and just being a brilliant slot midfielder.
Yeah, and I think, well, the guy who got the assist for Szoboszlai, Gakpo, I thought he had an exceptional performance. I thought it's one of the best games I've probably seen him play in a Liverpool shirt.
It was sort of reminiscent of like how he plays for the Netherlands, which we very rarely see at Liverpool.
He was fantastic, and his physicality as well, and he's a constant threat to Liverpool when they're on the attack, and AC Milan really could not deal with him. And that sort of leads us on to AC Milan. Where do you think they go from here? Because Fonseca, there's a lot of pressure building on him. They've only had 1 win in 4, and that win came against a team that's bottom of the table in Serie A. So where do you think AC Milan go from here? Because at a club like AC Milan, you've got to be performing. There's a lot of pressure on you. You've got to get results, and he's not getting them at the moment. So what do we see from him?
Because I don't watch a lot of Italian football. I don't watch AC Milan week in, week out. But from what I hear about them, they are struggling massively. And when you compare it to Inter Milan, who are probably the best team in Italy at the moment, it is not good reading for AC Milan. Yes, they've got key players like Rafa Leao on the wing, Theo Hernandez at left back. That is a strong left-hand side, but they're not always operating at their best. Leao on Tuesday night, he was good. He did play well at times, did beat his man a few times, but it's sort of like in short bursts. It's not consistent, and it's the same with AC Milan as a unit. Yes, they have periods of play, like when they scored the first goal, where they were potent, quick on the attack. But as a unit, they're just not quite up to scratch at the moment, and they're struggling massively.
Well, they got Leverkusen and Real Madrid still to play in the Champions League,
which
so
it's not easy at all.
And based on the performance that we saw against Liverpool, I do think it's a tough season for them in the Serie A and Champions League as well.
And another Tuesday night game that thoroughly impressed us was Bayern Munich against Dinamo Zagreb, however you want to pronounce it. What are your thoughts on that performance from Bayern?
Well, Bayern were fantastic. 9-2. I mean, what a result that is.
Very rarely see teams score 9 in the Champions League.
That's the thing. And it does feel like Bayern are the only teams that seem to just slap teams up, innit? It's such. I mean, it's happened to my team, Tottenham. So, I can't really be saying much, but yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And 4 goals for Harry Kane. I mean, he's left off where he started for Bayern. I mean, 51 goals in 50 games as a Bayern player, and he recently broke Wayne Rooney's record for the most Champions League goals scored by an English player. So
he's just efficient and proficient in Harry Kane.
He's fantastic.
He's inevitable. You know what you get with him.
Exactly, that's the thing. And I think Bayern know that as well. I mean, he's been putting in goals. I know he hasn't performed well for England, but he's come back and he's like a new player at Bayern.
100%.
Just like he has been every season for them. Like, he's been fantastic.
Well, when they let go of Lewandowski, they brought in players like Mane, for example, who, although was very good at Liverpool, never really found his feet at Bayern due to a variety of reasons. They tried to play him through the middle. He didn't really fit into that system, despite being good at Liverpool through the middle. But Kane's obviously a class above Mane in many aspects, especially in that striker position. And Bayern as a whole just looked like they could achieve something this season.
They've definitely sent a message to everyone else in Europe. And also, I just want to touch upon Elise as well. New signing, scored 2 goals. Fantastic performance from him. We saw at Palace, he's great, but he's showing it on a big stage in the Champions League for Bayern Munich. Picked up 2 goals. Great goals as well. And people questioned the appointment of Vincent Kompany, didn't they, really? They thought, why on earth has he got that job? But
I just feel he's won 9-2 players. I feel like at Burnley, although they had a good squad, for the Championship, for the Premier League they struggled.
They did,
And although their players may have been good technically on the ball and they were able to play company system to an extent because they just weren't at the level of the Premier League. They just couldn't cope with it.
Yeah.
Whereas at Bayern Munich, because he's got a group of players who are very good, very proficient on the ball, and because Bayern Munich are one of the best teams in Germany and Europe, they can play to the company's strengths. He's not having players who are a bit cautious here or there, or inferior players compared to the opposition.
I think his style of play, I think it suits Bayern perfectly because of the way he wants to play with the players that he has, as you mentioned. And I do think, I can't even lie. At first, I was thinking, I don't know how he's got that point. But now looking at it, I reckon it is a perfect match. You know, the way he plays and the club, the way they want to sort of go ahead in the Champions League
and combat Leverkusen as well in Bundesliga too.
That's the thing, and I think Company could be that man. And moving on to the Champions of Europe, where Real Madrid beat Stuttgart 3-1. And Zach, what were your thoughts on this match?
Well, Real Madrid did struggle in that first half, and understandably so in many ways. Carvajal playing centre back, Vasquez right back. It wasn't a full strength team, and Stuttgart did create a lot of chances, but unfortunately for them, they didn't put them away. And in the second half, Real Madrid's quality tailed, didn't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw how dangerous Real Madrid were on the transition with the pace they had in their attack. Rodrigo, Vinicius Junior, and Mbappe, all
probably the best front three in world football.
That's the thing, and they're all pacey. And we saw for Real Madrid's first goal, it was a fantastic combination between the three, where they literally just completely exploited Stuttgart on the counter. And with that pace, you simply can't afford to miss chances like Stuttgart were doing. Don't get me wrong, they're fantastic, and not many teams will come to the Bernabeu and create chances like they did. But you have to take those chances. You have to score them, because a team like Real Madrid will not let you off.
Real Madrid have always sort of been like this under Ancelotti and in the Champions League. They're never really a team who dominates the opposition.
No, that's true.
Unless the opposition is, a lot weaker than them. And yes, Stuttgart is a lot weaker than Real Madrid, but Real Madrid often rely on those moments. They're never really class like City from minute 1 to minute 90. They don't have complete performances. They just have players like Vinicius, Mbappe this season, Rodrigo, who will pop up with that brilliant goal and get them out of trouble. And that happened on Tuesday night.
Another player who could be a future Galactico, Endrick. He made his first Champions League appearance and
scored his first goal.
A goal. And it's a fantastic goal as well from outside the box. Smashed it. The keeper probably could have done better.
Isn't he?
But fantastic at just 18 years old.
Well, people always say Estevao Williams, who's going to go to Chelsea next year, is the better player, and maybe he is. I haven't watched enough of both of them to really give a proper, fair argument for either player. But he is a quality player, and I feel like Real Madrid, with all this attacking talent, throughout the season, it's going to help them massively because they can rotate and they can keep players fresh for those big nights in the Champions League, which will inevitably come. But the issue is that as Endrick starts to grow and progress, and as Rodrigo starts to grow and progress, and Vinicius and Mbappe, and they hit those like peak years when they're 26, 27, 28. I know Endrick's younger, but he will start to hit his peak.
Definitely.
23, 24. They're going to get into a conundrum of who do we actually play, and maybe some of them will look elsewhere to play football.
Well, that's the thing. That's the future problem. But right now, Endrick became Real Madrid's youngest ever Champions League goal scorer, and good on him, because he is a fantastic player, and I'm sure there's a lot to see in the future from him.
And just quickly glossing over the other matches on Tuesday night, Juventus beating PSV 3-1. A brilliant performance from Juve. Thiago Motta's Juve side are starting to click. They're starting to be that efficient and proficient side, like we touched upon in our YouTube short.
Absolutely, yeah.
Check it out. Young boys lost 3 in Aston Villa. What are your thoughts on that game?
Well, I thought Aston Villa got off to a fantastic start. Obviously, you'd expect them to win against Young Boys, but a great start for them. First win in 41 years. So that is mental, in the Champions League, by the way, which is a mental stat. And it's a great boost to them as they take on Bayern next. And also Sporting beat Lille 2-0, didn't they? Yeah,
not a bad performance from Sporting at all against a 10-man Lille side. Victor Gyökeres, what a player he is. I'm surprised he didn't get a move to maybe an Arsenal or a Chelsea or something.
We was linked to them.
He is a talent and a half. Yeah, a brilliant player. And Zeno de Bast, however you pronounce his name, very interesting name, and he potentially scored Champions League goal of the season. Much like from him.
Absolutely won the goal. I don't know how many meters that out is, but that could be goal of the season already in the Champions League. Fantastic goal and a great start for Sporting. And next up is one of the most boring games, believe it or not, of the Champions League game week 1. It is Manchester City versus Inter Milan, and it was a boring snooze fest 0-0 draw. And Zach, what were your thoughts on the match?
Sorry, I was just falling asleep while you were talking about it then. It was as dull as dishwater, this game. Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get managers like Inzaghi and Pep who are so tactically smart that when they face each other, the game becomes so cagey and it doesn't have that sort of wow factor like it does when you get a manager like Klopp and Pep come together. Two different styles. Because Inzaghi, he's a master tactician, and so is Pep. And it reminds me of when Arteta sometimes faces Pep and it's like a game of chess.
Yeah.
And that game was a prime example of that on Tuesday night. But to be fair to Inter, they defended really, really well.
I thought it was a great result for Inter.
And City had 22 shots on goal and only 5 on target, which shows that Inter were defending well. The City shots that they were having weren't really shots that were in good areas. They were just long shots from the edge of the box,
shots,
or just from
shots
tight
a bit more of a
angles.
hope. And apart from Gundogan towards the end of the game, a lot of City shots were sort of a bit more of a hope that they'd score. Yeah, that was a very, very huge chance that Gundogan should have scored, and that would have won the game for City. But he didn't score, and Inter got a draw. And I think it's a great result considering the fact that they had no Lautaro Martinez starting due to injury. So the fact they had their best player and one of the best players in the Serie A last season, the fact that he wasn't starting, they still managed to get a point at the Etihad. Fantastic result for Inter.
But it just does show you that although the game is very cagey, like I said, because the managers are so tactically astute and they try and outwit each other, that City are just so good. Inter the best team in Italy by a considerable margin, especially last season. Yet they come to the Etihad and they look the far inferior side, defending deep, and City are just on top of them. And it just shows you Pep Guardiola's City, how good they are, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And PSG narrowly beat Girona on Wednesday night, and although it wasn't the most mesmerising game in the world, it was a decent watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was a good watch, and I thought Girona played well to be able to limit PSG to very minimal clear-cut chances. And I thought PSG, though, when they did have those chances, they were not clinical enough.
They do miss Mbappe, don't they?
Well, that's the thing. The 44 goals Mbappe provided from that last season, I don't know where they're exactly going to get that from.
It could come from Bacola, but not 44. It could be 20. And then you've got to look at the other players. Will they chip in to amount to that amount of goals?
Well, exactly. And Koulibaly, Hakimi and Dembele all had very good chances, which they need to be scoring in that game. And they got very, very fortunate because obviously PSG scored in the last minute with a Gazaniga mistake, and it was shocking from him.
Can't take the top out that man, can you?
Well, that is how it seems, because the way the ball rolled through his legs, I mean, how on earth is that happening? It's such a slow roll through his legs.
He must be absolutely gutted because he had a good 90 minutes, didn't he? He performed well,
he's fantastic.
And he just let his team down at the final hurdle.
That's the thing, if he didn't make that mistake, he'd have arguably been the best player on the pitch, especially Girona's best player for keeping him in it. But he had that mistake, and that's cost them, and it'd have been a very good draw for them, obviously, because 0-0 draw at PSG would have been a very good result. They'd have got a point away at PSG. I think that's a very good result, but they've come away with nothing just due to one error, which is very, very unfortunate for Girona's point of view and very fortunate for PSG's point of view, which I think they certainly got away with because
moving forward, they're going to have to score more goals because when they play a higher quality opposition who won't afford them as many chances, they've got to be more clinical and potent in front of goal.
That's the thing. 9 times out of 10, they're drawn against Girona that night. And it's just very fortunate they managed to get that goal.
Well, on the other hand, they may not be drawing 9 times out of 10 if they just learn to put chances away. But
that's the thing.
On the basis of missing the chances.
Based on what we saw, they should really be drawing that game, and somehow they come away with the win. And they got to focus on that. Obviously, shouldn't be dwell on it. They've got the 3 points, which is important, but they really do need to be taking their chances.
Just to quickly gloss over the other matches that occurred on Wednesday night: Bologna drawing 0-0 with Shakhtar, a ball fest. Sparta Prague beating Salzburg 3-0, a brilliant result for Den. Unfortunate for Pep Linders, he's still a quality manager. We all know his talent and his brilliance in terms of tactical nous and tactical coaching, and his team is very naive and inexperienced. And because they're naive and inexperienced players, they're not going to be able to build on performances and replicate form on a regular basis. They're going to have results like this throughout the campaign, and their team is just super young for the 18 and 20-year-olds. But Bajcetic played well, and I'm really happy about that because he is on loan from Liverpool. But yes, moving on, Dortmund beating Club Brugge 3-0.
Yeah, fantastic result for Dortmund, and super sub Jamie Gittins coming off the bench and scoring 2 goals. The Englishman is just 20 years old as well, so bright future for him, and he could be knocking on that England squad because I reckon he is a fantastic talent because his footwork and his pace is insane. It's good to see a player who's
so naturally gifted at a young age. We see so many robotic wingers come through the ranks nowadays. To see a player so naturally skilled and talented at 20 years old, and he's English as well.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Great to see. And also Celtic beating Slovan Bratislava 5-1, and more an impressive win for Celtic in the Champions League. Great start for them, and he got Borussia Dortmund next as well, so
will be a tough encounter, so good to get off on the right start.
That'd be a great watch as well. And moving on to Thursday night games where we have Monaco taking on Barcelona, where they got a 2-1 victory. And Zach, do you want to delve into this one?
Well, I think it was a very good performance from Monaco. Yes, this Barcelona team isn't little talent. There's no two ways about it. But still, they put up a good fight. Yes, Barcelona went down to 10 men, which did help them, but they performed efficiently. They actually outperformed their XG as well. Had an XG of 1.2, scored 2 goals. Could have had that penalty late on. It was a contentious decision. I mean, it would have been 3-1 and looked even better. And yeah, it is a brilliant result for Monaco. I know this Barcelona team isn't great, but still a very good result to start their Champions League campaign.
Definitely.
And Lamine Yamal, what a talent he is.
Fantastic goal as well.
He's 17 and he's performing like this already. Wait till he's 23, 24. He will probably be the best player on the planet. And I know I don't want to scrutinise Saka too much because I do rate him. He's a good footballer, but was Saka doing this at 17? No. I think by the time Yamal's Saka's age, which is 23, 24 now, I think he'll just be a whole league above. And hopefully he will be a player who can bring light and bring energy and impetus and make this next generation more watchable and more enjoyable.
Well, Yamal is certainly the definition of a generational talent because he's doing this at such a young age, and that goal he scored on a big night in the Champions League. I know they didn't win, but the fact that you can score goals like that on a big night, we've seen him do it in the Euros as well. He's such a fantastic player and definitely
pressure doesn't seem to faze him. I saw him do keep-ups in the tunnel before the game. He knows his worth.
That's the thing.
He knows his quality.
He's definitely a player that Barca don't want to be getting rid of. You know what happened to Messi, where he went and they lost him due to financial issues.
And we're not saying he's on the level of Messi yet, but he could be. He could be one of Barcelona's greatest players by the time he retires.
It looks like he's the next in line in terms of not maybe reaching that level, but a young kid coming through the academy
for the next sort of decade.
Exactly.
Or so.
You're going to have to build a team around him, and I think if Barca are going to be sensible, they should build a team around Yamal, and 100%. He proved that tonight.
And yes, they may want to sell him, for example, to generate some funds to build elsewhere, but you can't let a talent like that go. And we were talking, weren't we, midway through the game and after the game, how European football just isn't what it once was.
No.
Barcelona have dropped off significantly.
Massively.
Bayern Munich, Juventus, AC Milan. When you look at these teams and their starting 11s and the actual quality within them, it is lacklustre compared to what, 10, 15 years ago. Barcelona are a shadow of their former selves. Real Madrid, still a very good side, but even then, they're not as good as the three-peat team. Liverpool, still good under Slot, could be good under Slot, not as good as Klopp's Liverpool.
Yeah.
And it's just a frequent theme around Europe, isn't it?
I think Barcelona as well is a great example of how far European football has fallen 100%. Off, because they clearly haven't planned well as well. I mean, the fact that they had such a great team, one of the best teams of all time, and they had that for such a long time, and they just sort of rinsed that and squeezed everything out of it and never actually planned for the future like Real Madrid did.
Yes.
And that's why we've seen Barca like this, where they're losing games that they shouldn't be.
They're relying on Pedri, now bringing through Gavi, that Kubasi,
which is why they get injured. So players like Pedri are getting injured because they're relying on these kids. You don't want to run these young players into the ground, do you? That's the thing, and it goes to show the levels of Barcelona and where they are right now compared to what they were. It's quite a sad affair, to be honest, as a football fan, because where Barcelona were, it was insane. I mean, they were recognised as the best team in Europe, weren't they? And now, I mean, I was saying to you when we were watching the game, you look at their team, and it looks like a mid-table La Liga team that's literally just crept into the Champions League. You know,
there's no recognisable talent. There may be some good youth players, but is there really players in there apart from Lewandowski who you look at and go, an established international who's been doing it for 3, 4, 5, 6 years at the top level?
It looks like Lewandowski's joined a retirement club and he's just managed to get into the Champions League with the team, because that's genuinely what it looks like. Because
they're missing De Jong, but apart from De Jong and Lewandowski, the team is very lacklustre.
The quality in there, there's none in there apart from Yamal and Lewandowski.
I do think there's talents like Pedri, Gavi,
in terms of players that stay fit is one thing.
And in terms of established talent, there's very few.
Agreed.
And that's around Europe at the moment, because players like Yamal, a brilliant youngster, but he at the moment is one of the best wingers in world football. And don't get me wrong, he's a quality player, but go back 5-10 years ago when you had Bale, Robben, Messi, Benzema, Suarez, Neymar, he's not even being in conversation.
No, agreed, I think you're spot on.
Football has just fallen off.
Yeah, definitely. But also, I just want to touch upon Monaco about how good they were as well. Obviously, I know we're slating Barca, but Monaco were fantastic in that game. Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. They were really, really good.
Actually, being clinical.
Yeah, and they certainly capitalised on the fact that Barca had 10 men as well. You know, Barca had 10 men, and that's where they got their first goal, and they managed to go and win the game as well. So fair play to Monaco. Great start for them, as you said earlier. But Barca have got a lot of issues to fix.
And the other game which we watched, well, unfortunately so, because it was a ball fest, was Arsenal against Atalanta, a 0-0 affair, away in Italy. And what were your thoughts on the game?
Well, it reminded me of, funny enough, an Italian and English club that happened on Wednesday night, Man City and Inter, where both teams sort of cancel each other out. There wasn't much to happen apart from the penalty for Atalanta, which I do think it was a penalty.
Brilliant double save from Ryder.
Oh, fantastic. And that's what got Arsenal the point. I mean, that save is genuinely insane. I mean, the fact that he managed to save the penalty and then get back up and reaction.
Yes, it wasn't the most purchase upon the header, but still, it's class reaction.
That's the thing, Don't get me wrong, should be finishing that. And Atalanta should be really heading with a 1-0 victory, because that should be a goal no matter what. I mean, don't get me wrong, fantastic save, but there should be no excuse.
Ryder proving his worth.
Well, exactly. He's definitely proven his worth, and we've seen why he's been replaced. Why he's replaced Ramsdale? Sorry, because he's a fantastic goalkeeper, one of the best in the Premier League. He's proven it in the Champions League as well on the big nights. But overall, not a great game. Not a great game to watch. It's like I said, both teams cancel each other out, and I suppose it's not an awful start for Arsenal. No. They got a point, but
against the Europa League winners,
that is true.
Beat Leverkusen in the final.
Yeah, of course. I suppose if you're an Arsenal fan, you'd probably be hoping for a win. But
more than expected.
I guess we'll see where Arsenal go from here. They got PSG next at home, so that'd be a very good game. To be fair, I mean,
PSG aren't in the best spot at the moment. But they've still got quality in abundance.
We touched upon them, and we've seen how the issues that they have. So I would expect Arsenal to probably go and win that.
Especially with it being at home. But but you never know with Arsenal in Europe. When you watch Arsenal in Europe, it's almost like they're a different proposition to what they are in the Premier League. The players don't give off the same sort of aura. And I know Arsenal fans love aura, and I'm not saying this team is full of it.
No, I agree.
But when you watch them in the Premier League, it feels like they carry weight. But when you watch them in Europe, I was watching the Arsenal team tonight, given it wasn't full strength, it's just like looking at a bunch of players who are just good players, not your elite players who are the upper echelons of European football, which some are, but it just doesn't really go for that factor or vibe in Europe, does it?
They looked a bit more timid, especially tonight. And do you reckon that's because of Arteta? Do you reckon he asked them to go a bit more pragmatic? Because it's obviously away, you know, it's not like they're at home. If they're at home, I'd expect them to dominate the ball. But because I'm not saying they didn't dominate the ball, obviously I know they did have more possession, but still, I would just expect them to maybe go at it a bit more if they're at home. But because they're away, I can sort of see why they sort of went a bit more pragmatic. They didn't really want to do anything silly, and they fortunately got away with saving that penalty. I mean, I think that was Arteta's worst nightmare when he saw that, thinking, oh, we've not really gone for that attack and we might be losing this game, and that's the thing. But what do you think? Do you reckon that starts with Arteta, and do you think that's wrong of him?
He seems to be building a habit of grinding out results, which, don't get me wrong, football's a results business, and the most important thing is getting the 3 points or getting the victories to take you through to the next round. But when you consistently see Arteta set up defensively and almost play for the point or play for a 1-0 win, it's not enjoyable to watch. I know I'm a Liverpool fan, this may seem biased, but watching Klopp's Liverpool, no matter where we went, no matter who we played, we always gave them a game. We literally never, apart from one game which I remember was when we played City at Anfield, Salah scored that goal on the break in the 22-23 campaign, when we were really under the cosh. That's when we sat in. But apart from that, every game that I watched under Klopp, no matter who we played, we were on the front foot, we were going for the win. We could be 2-0 up late on, and we'd still go and score more goals. And yes, at times that did cost us because we would delete goals. But I just feel like this Arsenal team do not have that ruthless nature in Europe. We've seen it in the Premier League in patches, but we haven't seen it in Europe. And even though we've seen it in the Premier League in patches, and they are a consistent football team, they don't tend to tear teams apart on a regular basis.
That's true.
And they do go to games like the City at the Etihad last season, the other weekend, where they just sit in and absorb pressure and try and hit on the break. And is that what you really want, a consistent basis from a title winning team?
I see what you're saying, to be fair, and I do think they could probably be adding a little bit more to their attacks. I think they could be a little bit more on the front foot
100%.
In their games, because I think if they're a bit more on the front foot in this game, I think they'd win it. And if you saw City against Atalanta, you'd see them go on the front foot and they'd go and win the game, because Arsenal have the better quality out of the two sides, and I think Arsenal definitely should be going on the front foot a bit more. But also, to be fair, when they did have chances, I mean, Martinelli had a chance. I think he's got to be scoring there. I mean, we've seen it in the North London derby as well, where he couldn't finish his dinner really, and I think that's a poor sign from him, because obviously Arteta keeps playing him and he's not
trying
scoring.
to play him into form, isn't he?
Well, exactly, and it might work, but I don't know if it will work, and I think that's also a sort of an issue that Arsenal need to be looking at.
They just relied too much upon Saka. Don't get me wrong, Trossard, a brilliant goal scorer off the bench, but he's not super consistent when he starts games. And I feel like when Saka's not performing in the attack, they lack that clinical edge, they lack that cutting edge, or someone who can create something out of nothing, and especially when Odegaard's not available as well. And at the moment, Arsenal are going for a bit of a rough patch. Don't get me wrong, brilliant result against you boys on the weekend, and they could pull something off against City, but at the moment, I just don't think they have that sort of ruthless nature and tenacity that that can really propel them on to win maybe Champions League or Premier League this season.
And quickly covering all the other results on Thursday, we saw Red Star host Benfica, but losing 2-1. I suppose you'd sort of expect that. Benfica were obviously the favourites there, and a 2-1 win for Benfica. Great start for them, and also Feyenoord taking on Leverkusen, but a 4-0 win for Leverkusen with the Wirtz brace. Fantastic for Leverkusen. Great start for them.
The Wolves are no longer on the bus.
Well, exactly.
They are no longer on the bus. Without Arne Slot, they seem to be no more.
Well, exactly. And the thing is, obviously, a manager that Liverpool are looking at, Alonso, stayed at Leverkusen, and as we can see, it's paying off, because a 4-0 win in the Champions League, a massive statement.
Not a bad result, because they didn't start the Bundesliga season the best.
No.
But to pull off a result like that against Feyenoord, away from home as well.
Great win for them. But also Atleti and Leipzig.
Well, that was a good result for Atleti. Jimenez, the centre-back, scoring the last-minute winner. Griezmann scoring again, being the catalyst for Atletico again. And Benjamin Sesko scored for Leipzig, and he is a quality player. I was just reading through his stats then. I didn't realise how good he was. I know I heard about him a couple of years ago when Liverpool played him in pre-season, but last season in the Bundesliga, he scored 14 goals in 17 starts.
Oh, wow.
Which is absolutely brilliant. 2 goals in one start in the DFB Pokal last season. Last season as well, he got 2 and 4 in the Champions League, 2 and 4 starts. He is an efficient goal scorer, a brilliant player, and he could be the limelight for Leipzig this season if they want to go and achieve something. But yeah, obviously in the end, Atleti tailed due to their quality.
And also Brest taking on Sturm Graz. I mean, I was saying this to Zach earlier when I saw this as being played. I said, this looks like a Conference League game, to be honest. It looks like Chelsea should be playing them soon.
Yeah,
so
not be funny.
Don't quite know how there's a Champions League game, but you got to respect them. They're in the Champions League, and Brest getting a 2-1 win, good start for them. You know, I don't know if they'll get through. Obviously, we don't know how they'll do, but a win in the Champions League, yeah, can't complain.
Here's how the league table stands after match week 1. As you can see, Bayern Munich sit comfortably top after a 9-2 win. Celtic second, Leverkusen in third. They had dominant performances too.
Yeah.
Are there any teams on there that you think will just be guarantees come the end of the league phase?
Well, I think Leverkusen, I'm not so sure if they're a guarantee, but I think the way we saw them perform, I think they should be in there. Bayern, how can I forget them? They should be in there as well. Liverpool and Juventus, I'd say, should expect to be in there, and I do think a surprising shout. Wouldn't say you'd expect them to be in the top 8, but Aston Villa, because Unai Emery is tactically switched on, and I think out of all the managers in the entire Champions League, well, he's got one of the best tactical brains, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he has that European pedigree too.
Exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised if Aston Villa make their way into the top 8. I'm not saying you should expect it, but I do think there's certainly a shout. Obviously, how can we forget as well? Real Madrid,
Inter Milan,
exactly.
Barcelona, Man City.
They'll
be in there come the end. But yeah,
I'd be shocked if they weren't in there, and I'm sure we'll see it start to take place, you know, in a few weeks' time, where
start to take proper shape, and we really see. Well, we sort of see the top 3 or 4 set themselves away from the rest.
Exactly.
But just to clarify, I think you already know, but the top 8 go through automatically, whereas the next day after that they go into a qualification round, don't they?
Yeah.
And they play the teams from 8th to 24th.
Yep.
And those teams compete against each other, and then the bottom 12, unfortunately for them, find their way out.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Well, comment down below, what are your thoughts on the new Champions League format? Do you like it? Do you not? Who do you think will be the surprise package in the Champions League this season? And who has impressed you so far? And if you have enjoyed this video and enjoyed this new style of content, comment down below, like and subscribe for more content just like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.